Good evening and welcome to NUFC Matters post-match Tottenham Hotspur. Well, predictable to say the least. Despite Newcastle at times showing some signs of interest, Malcolm's prediction of 3-1 came true. I didn't fancy Newcastle either today. I fancied them to lose 2-1. And Malcolm, you were right. And the message is coming in straight away. James Smith says, Joe Linton has just come on. I'd rather have Malcolm come on than him. So he was obviously sending that during the game. Yeah, Malcolm, he came on again and did absolutely nothing.
Well, he gave the ball away a few times. So come on, don't be unfair, Steve. Somebody please explain to me the logic within the Newcastle manager and the rest of the bench. Newcastle are 2-1 down with half an hour to go. They need a goal to get back into the game. And so what Steve Bruce does is take off the natural goal scorer and they put on a fella who hasn't got a clue. Where is the sense in that? It's not a substitution, it's sabotage. Ridiculous. It really is. It just utterly baffles me. And why he keeps being brought on every single game. I don't know. Has he got it in his contract that he has to play if fit?
Yeah.
It really is getting beyond me now.
Steve, what did you make of the game as a whole?
Well, I thought we controlled the game at times. I thought, for a good 20 minutes, half an hour of the first half, I thought we struck the ball around really well. I thought Tottenham, if I'm being truthful, were playing within themselves. They were just waiting for the opportunity. I think Mourinho thought that we were going to come at them a little bit, especially after the way that the second half performance we had on Saturday. And he just toyed with us. They just. At half time, I was so annoyed with Yedlin and I was so annoyed with Shaw, and to a certain extent, Richie. I did put up something on Twitter that the three of them, really hadn't done anything. I think a few people thought maybe Richie I was being a little bit harsh, but the rationale behind that was, when Richie gets the ball, when he gets it from one of the central defenders, and he plays the ball back to him, and he turns his back as if to say, "Don't do that to me again. I don't want the ball," and he walks off. And it's things like it's attitude like that annoys me, But I mean, he scored a cracking goal in the second half, and I thought we're getting back into it. But you know what? The difference between the two teams is when you've got class players up the other end who can put the ball in the back of the net, and you've got players like the Mella who can run virtually the full length of the pitch and then still get a shot in after 2 attempted tackles on him, and then it comes back, and then you have a central defender in Fernandes who's standing there, doesn't react to the ball coming back off the goalkeeper, and boom, it's in, back of the net, 3-1, game over.
John, just as Alan says, how come the ref never allowed for the time Shaw's injuries taken? Should have been at least another 3 minutes. I don't think I could have watched another 3 minutes of that.
Put out on misery, I think.
Do you think that the referee was putting all Newcastle people out of their misery?
I definitely think so. Neil, you saw the game as well out in Dubai. What was your take on it? I mean, I thought we played okay that first half. We seemed a bit more interested than Watford. The Watford performance, which doesn't take a lot, to be fair. But what was your view on it?
Well, it was a better performance than against Watford in many ways. And if you look at the Championship managers out there who want to look at the stats, actually, go on the stats. We probably didn't deserve to lose at 3-1. But there was, like Steve says, there was a difference in two ways. One, players at the attacking end, at the cutting edge, who can actually deliver. And then also, we were genuinely the masters of our own downfall. That decision from Shea to do what he did for the first goal was poor. Yedlin looked like he was playing in roller skates at times. He was running like Scooby-Doo. His legs were going at 200 miles an hour, but he was going bloody nowhere. And it's like, I don't even know. When we started off, I couldn't work out whether we were playing a back five or a back four, and it seemed to alternate between a back five when we were out of possession and then a back four when we were in possession, which doesn't help at all because you've got players who. How can you work on something like that in a matter of a few days? We're tinkering, we're playing players like Kraft's not a centre back and he's not a wing back, he's a right full back. We've discussed this before here, and he's neither. And he showed it with that goal against Kane. He's obviously being told to touch Mark, and then he lost him, and then he's flapping his arm in the air as the lad's putting the ball in the back of the net because he's lost him altogether. Yeah. You know, it's frustrating as, you know, and Lazaro did more in 3 minutes than Yedlin did in 55.
But we're playing, whether it was 4 or 5 at the back, we're playing Kraft, who hasn't got a clue how to defend. We're playing Yedlin, another player who hasn't got a clue how to defend. He shows something going forward, there's Yedlin, but as a defender, he really hasn't got a clue, and he's got so much pace to use, but he doesn't know how to use it. And
yeah.
And you know, when for the first goal, Son, the obvious way to send it, you close down the inside and you force him to go towards the corner flag. And Kraft, he went towards the corner flag and allowed Son to come inside. And I just looked and I thought, oh, this is ridiculous. And it was defensive error after defensive error. And in the end, Spurs scored 3 goals, and each goal had an horrendous defensive error that was to blame.
4-2.
Yeah. I saw
4-2.
it. I saw it
4-2.
all 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. But and that's following on from the Watford game, which the second penalty I thought was an absolute shocker from Newcastle's point of view. Absolute shocker. You know, and you think, come on, if you're doing what you're doing out on the pitch, on the training ground, surely the manager and coaches have got to be correcting you, or they see it happening on the pitch, and so the next day you get them out on the training ground and you say, you don't do it this way, this is how you do it, and you stick to it. And if they don't, get them out.
Yeah. The other frustrating thing for me was on the second goal when the cross came in, the amount of time that Bergwijn had to actually line up his cross. You know, nobody closed him down. He was able to bring the ball under control. He was able to look up. He was able to put the perfect cross in, dropping right over the entire back 5 that we had, and it was pinpoint accuracy, but it was poor defending. Yeah, no closing down. No closing down whatsoever. And this is Steve Bruce, by the way, who, I mean, his reputation was built on the fact that he was supposed to have been the best uncapped central defender that the country's ever had, you know, when he was playing for Manchester United. He's got honours coming out of his backside when it comes to being a defender at one of the top clubs in Europe and playing for one of the top managers. And yet we're seeing absolutely no example of any idea on how to coach a back 4 or a back 5 or a back 3 in basic defending. It's so destroying.
Zero organisation, isn't it, Steve?
It is.
Just some of them just don't seem to know what they're actually supposed to be doing.
No, and there's
no discipline.
Willing to get a grip of it. There's nobody on the pitch who's willing to get a grip of it on his behalf and able to say, "This is what I'll do. This is what I'll try." And you know, nobody to get a hold of you and drag you through 90 minutes as the leader in that back 5. None whatsoever. No communication, no coaxing, no prodding, no shouting, no leadership. Absolutely shocking. And if the players have got to take some responsibility on that as well.
Yeah, I would agree 100%. A lot of comments coming in tonight. Sam Robson, Bruce only brought Longstaff on so he stops getting asked questions if he's not playing him due to the contract situation. Andrew just simply says, I wish I could have my club back, man. Mark Henderson said it's obvious that Matty Longstaff hasn't got a future at the club. Gary asks, what changes would you make for the next game? anyone you feel not in the team who has been given a fair chance. Got to be honest, lads. I think the decisions are going to be taken away from Bruce. Not that it matters anyway, with injuries, because St. Maximin lived up there. It looked very much like a hand. Whether that's I don't know. Shaw definitely looks like he dislocated his shoulder. That means he's going to be out the rest of the season. We're struggling with defenders, and now if we've lost our most creative player, then these last 2 games against Brighton and Liverpool, it'll be damage limitation, Malcolm.
Yeah, I agree with you, Steve, that, even before this game, Steve Bruce said that that really he's playing the only side that he's got available. I thought he was egging a point on that, to be stretching a point rather, on that one. But now what he said, it's coming true now for the next game, that he needs to find 11 fit players and get them organised and sorted, ready to go out and do the business.
Yeah. Steve, your thoughts?
You know what? He's just gonna. I'm amazed that we're not seeing any of the youngsters getting an opportunity in these last few games, and maybe these next 2 games will be forced to. And that's not really the situation you want, is it? That you're playing them because you have to. You want to be bringing them on, and you want them to be part of a setup, and just throwing them in is what's going to happen next. We're going to see a couple of the younger lads coming in, possibly even a couple of the defenders, from the under-23s, going to have to make them more, because we've run out of players. Basically, we've run out of steam, we've run out of players, we've run out of ideas, and the next 2 games can't come quick enough. If there was a change to be made, and probably the change is at manager's level, isn't it? But it's not going to happen yet. That's the one I'd be shouting about now. And the commentator, I don't know whether you heard him and what channel you were watching. He kept going on about the fact that we have this remarkable record at St James's Park since we lost against Leicester. And I looked at it and I thought, well, there's 10 home games that we've had. I think we've only won 3. I think the rest have all been draws anyway. And one of those wins was against Rochdale in the Cup 4-1. We've hardly pulled up any trees, have we? We had a very, very lucky win against Chelsea. That was another one. And then we beat Sheffield United, 10 men, 3-0. And after that, they've all been draws, and again, this whole media rolling over to stats that are making out that Steve Bruce has built some sort of amazing fortress at St James's Park since Christmas. What? What's he made it out of? Cardboard, God, was it a Christmas present with Lego? Dear me.
Neil, it's definitely a media narrative, isn't it? It must frustrate everybody watching these at home. When you can't kid a kidder is what they say up here. And we know that Bruce has been very lucky this season.
Yeah, but it does. And this is where, when I get a few pelters when I talk about the way, say, for example, Keys and Gray talk out here on beIN, then people say, oh, they're not relevant. Well, I'm sorry, they are. They're very relevant here in the MENA region. And what they say is held in high regard by many football fans, many casual football fans. And so when they're faced with this sort of narrative about using stats to make a point, when we all know that stats in football don't work, they don't correlate. It's not a money ball game. It's not like baseball. It's not like American football. You can't predict a game on stats in the same way. You just can't. And you can make the stats say whatever you want them to say. Like Steve says, this narrative about Fortress and James's Park, what, 3 wins? Really? That's a fortress, is it? It doesn't even qualify as a bloody sandcastle. You've just got to look at what we're looking at on the pitch every day, every week, every time they step out there. The irony today is it's the other way around. We've had more shots on target. We've had more shots at goal. We've actually given them a go statistically, but what's happened on the pitch? And you look at it, and that's what we're putting up with. And we're putting up with this sort of narrative that is steering down a certain path. We've discussed it before, where I don't know any other manager who's been compared to this one and that one the way that Bruce is to Rafa. And there is this continued narrative that he's some sort of saviour and he's made with so much better off. And we're not. We're just bloody lucky that we've got enough points on the board that these last 2 games and the probable absolute scudding we're going to get on the last day of the season, and we'll be lucky to get something against Brighton. And like Steve says, this isn't the position where we should be chucking kids in, because it could ruin some of them for the rest of their career. You know, you stick a young'un in at left back against Liverpool and we'll get stuffed 7-0 or something like that. What's that going to do to that kid? That's not how you bring kids into the game. You put them in the comfortable
what you're saying, Mitch. You have to give young lads, young players, some protection. And you don't.
You put them into comfortable situations, not absolutely in the deep end. You can't do that, and that could ruin some kids' career.
Yeah,
you know, it's not right. But you know what? By the fact that we've got very few fit players and we look like we're dropping like flies, and again, why is it us again with this whole narrative about we've got a superb club doctor? There's no doubt about that. But there's something about the conditioning team below that doesn't work. And it's evident now. You know, okay, maybe Shea was unlucky today. Hopefully it's not a dislocation, he's just separated the joint. But he'll guarantee he'll miss the next game. And frankly, will he be missed anyway after the performance today? It's very difficult to say.
Yeah, he hasn't been at the races, definitely not. Certainly hasn't looked interested. Quick one, lads, before I move on to some other comments. Barry says, do you think Kane should have been shown a red card today? Malcolm?
No, Steve? Definitely not. He didn't look at the Newcastle player at all. His eyes were absolutely on the ball coming down out of the air. And football is a contact sport. And now and again, you're going to get an injury from it. You know, if you don't want it to be a contact sport, go and play netball.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I don't think so. I think, if anything, if Shaw was any sort of defender, he would have jumped a little bit higher. He would have been a bit more aggressive, and he would have battled for the ball, and he wouldn't have felt that, you know, because he was so low down, he was so far down, and he jumped into the elbow. Really, the elbow was there. You know, it wasn't a thrust back or anything like that. So no, I think a red card would have been really harsh for that one.
Sure, because when you jump, as Kane did in that, your arms automatically come up. Otherwise, you can't jump up in the air. They have to come up, and Shah has pretty much gone into the elbow. It certainly wasn't elbow to face. No, that I won't have.
Same for you, mate. Not a penalty.
If again, you look at the reaction of the other players, as Malcolm would tell you, as a player, you know when a player's done another player. You know.
Oh yeah.
It's a very different thing. You know when somebody's gone out to do someone. You can see in the body language, as he says, are you looking at the ball? Are you having a little sly glance over your shoulder? You know. And I think those players know that wasn't a deliberate. Yeah, it's unfortunate, but not a red.
Yeah.
No, definitely not. In fact, I thought the booking was harsh. I don't think he should have been booked for it.
I'd agree, lads. Danielle says, how dare Steve Bruce say we need to have realistic expectations? We expect the manager to organise and manage a team. We expect a bit of fight. We expect a striker who isn't second rate. All fair point.
Yeah. Paul, is Joe Linton as high as that? Bruce, I didn't think he reached that level. Good heavens.
Paul has 45 points total. No chance getting past Liverpool. Will thank us. Defeated Brighton. Also, says he's sick of 30 years of dross bar one season. If this takeover doesn't go through, Tim says nobody knows how to put a crunching tackle in. Unknown says the little brick top doesn't want to be there, meaning Matty Longstaff. I wouldn't play him at all, Geordie or not. And Stephen Frost says, pundits saying Joe Linton lacks competence. If a Premier League club paid 40 million for me, my competence would be through the roof. So lots of interesting stuff there. NUFC 3920 says, short injury. It is dislocated shoulder, according to Miles Starforth. Tom Dixon's looking on the right. Cracking save from Sun. He's seen.
Very good save.
Ben Taylor says, has Steve Bruce demotivated Shaw? He's a shadow of his former self. What is going on? Mark Tulip says Joe Linton's touches were dreadful. They had 2 attacks from his donkey touches. And Peter Robson
How
says,
dare you be so unkind to donkeys?
Peter Robson says, never in my life have I ever wanted that horrible hairy ape keys to be actually right. Friday announcement to save our club. Mark Henderson agrees with you, Malcolm. I feel sorry for Dwight Gale. He keeps getting substituted. Why? And I mean, you know, he had a really good chance. That header was a brilliant header. He was just so
Very
Oh, it was. It took it superbly. And if it had gone in, everybody would have been absolutely raving about it. But as it so happens, it hits the post, comes off, comes back out, and you know, but he will always be able to create himself chances. Always. Joe Linton, I'm trying to just very quickly think of what chances he's had other than the 2 goals he scored, and to be honest, can't think of any.
Yeah, it is dismal, and I think we all expected this kind of end to the season. As soon as we managed, we're just so lucky that we got the point. A lot of these messages coming in, people saying that we'll be screwed next season if we're still waiting for the takeover to happen. I think all of our ducks are needing to be lined up now with this takeover, and it needs to go through as soon as possible.
Yeah, I'm very much of the opinion that as soon as the season finishes, the Premier League will get the job done. Of that, I'm convinced. They cannot leave Newcastle United dangling in the way that they have done up to now. Once the season finishes, they need to get it sorted, and sorted very, very quickly.
Mitch, Alex was asking there, have you heard anything across in your neck of the woods? Is there any more, you know, without giving people false hope, anything?
No, look, it's still as it is. There's still a quiet confidence. There's nothing really new coming out. As Malcolm says, it's crunch time now. For me, the league have now set the transfer window, and I think if they have to be now fair to the club, fair to the fans, and even fair to Mike Ashley, the outgoing owner. You know, it's time now that we'll have a decision, and if the decision's yes, then make it and make it public and get it done. And if the decision is no, then we've got a recalcitrant owner who needs to make decisions about how we're going to go forward as a football club, because he needs to keep a Premiership club going to get that kind of money back in his own pocket. So, or to start a deal with, if it is Henry Maurice in inverted commas, whoever, if one of these stalk and horse bids is real, it's time for them to show the colour of their money. I don't believe it for 1 minute. I believe there's only one show in town, and I believe that's the only show in town that will happen. But it's now time for the Premier League to show some fairness. It's not fair to keep one of their member clubs dangling with a transfer window approaching, with the end of the season approaching, with no prospects, no future, and no clarity. That is not fair. That's absolutely not in the spirit of the game. And now it's starting to reflect badly on them, because now there's so much going on that everything that casts doubt on it reflects badly on the Premier League, because it's time to make that decision, lads.
Couldn't agree more, Mitch. Now, there is one scenario that we haven't really tackled in all of this, and that is if the Premier League should take the decision that they bar the takeover from happening, what do you think Mike Ashley is actually going to do? Is he suddenly going to be interested again? Is he suddenly going to want to start taking part? Because he's chucked the towel in as far as Newcastle United is concerned. He's not going to suddenly go and pick it up again. And I am really, really concerned that the football authorities, the Premier League, could be a real danger for the future of Newcastle United at the moment.
Yeah. One for you there, Mal. Malcolm says, Mark says, Malcolm, how would you feel if you were Dwight Gale with a manager who has always said he admired you, yet he obviously has no faith in him?
Yeah. You see, the way I always looked at it was, as a goal scorer, don't ask me or don't expect me to score at any given time. You can't do it. I have 90 minutes to stick the ball in the net as many times as I can, and I will do my best. And a lot of goals are scored in the last 15 or 20 minutes. And that's a time you want a goal scoring forward in the opponent's box. And why they take Gale off, he is the only proven goal scorer in the club. And as soon as he was walking off and I saw Joe Linton getting changed, I knew for certain Tottenham would win the game. I knew for certain. You know, and because all threat from Newcastle was walking off the pitch.
Calf injury for Alanson Maximin, so he will probably miss at least the next game, possibly the Liverpool as well, so he will be out. Mike Gent says, I wish we could just fast forward to an actual takeover happening. What are your thoughts, boys? We've only got 5 minutes left, lads. I don't really want to drag too much out of that one, but, you know, still confident, Steve?
Yeah, still confident. It has to happen, you know, and all the signals are that everything that, in my mind, that it's occurred this week is a positive. I have to look at it that way. Going back to Joe Linton, however, the fact that we brought Joe Linton on after playing him wide on the left for the last few games as well tells me that, hang on, why did you bring him on as your main striker again? He's played wide on the left, you know. You haven't wanted him as a striker, and yet you bring him on and when you're 2-1 down, and you take off the only man who really is in with a chance of scoring or has shown opportunities to score in the penalty area since the turnaround and since we came back after the project restart.
Neil,
get it.
Still confident?
Absolutely. I say nothing that's happened that changes my mind. And in fact, some of the moves that have happened this week, I believe, strengthen the opinion that it's all green lights.
Malcolm, same for you. Same question. Are you still confident the takeover is going to go through?
Yes, I am. Yeah. There's been too many precedents for them to say no to this.
Yeah, I agree as well. I still believe it's going to go through. I've got no doubts. I haven't changed.
You know what, Steve? I think they've had that many chances to say no, and they haven't said no.
Neil Straker says you're in the squad for Brighton, Malcolm, so you'll be about that. NUFC 3920 says this is thoughts on the 5 sub rule.
Hold on. I'm in the squad. I am going to refuse to be a reserve for Joe Linton.
Right.
I refuse, point blank.
5 sub rule, lads, looks like it's going to be made permanent. Malcolm, do you think it's a good idea?
Sorry, Steve.
The 5 substitution rule is going to be permanent by the Premier League. Do you like it or not?
No, I don't think it's a good idea. I think that, but there's only a couple of games to go, so they're going to see this season out. But it's got to go back to 3 subs and no water breaks in each half.
Yeah.
That's got to stop. It stops the flow of the game, you know, doesn't it? You know, a game of 2 halves. No, it's now a game of 4 quarters.
Yes.
Yeah, like American football.
That's what they want, though. But I had a little rant at the lad who's the chairman of the Man U supporters club out here on Twitter during the game, because he was talking about it, and it's like the 5 subs only does one thing: it strengthens the hand of the clubs with the deep squads. And the water breaks is all about getting people's mind around the potential to give you 4 quarters. Because what is that? That's an advertising opportunity. That's an income stream. And I believe they've used this restart as an opportunity to test the waters with certain things that they want to bring in the way they tested the water with VAR and then hurriedly brought it in for a World Cup because it's another advertising stream, because Budweiser wanted to sponsor it for the World Cup. This is what it's all about. And what they've been subtly trying to do, in my opinion, is get us as fans' heads around certain things. So when they bring them in permanently, we don't bat an eyelid. And 5 subs is one of them. And all that does is it strengthens the hands of the big clubs with the big squads.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more on that.
Definitely. Yeah.
Lads, we're at the deadline, lads. It's 30 minutes in. So, as always, been an absolute pleasure to have you on. There's never enough time in this. We'll probably people asking us 2 hours, but we're looking to half an hour. So, lads, been a pleasure. Look forward to getting you on again at some point, lads. I'll see you hopefully on Friday. Malcolm, I will see you again on Monday to look ahead to the Brighton game.
Great stuff, lads.
Cheers, lads.
Thank you.
Take care, guys. Good night, everyone.